When the riders came, the barley was almost ready. It stood in pale gold waves beyond the village of Elmsreach, bending under a soft morning wind as if bowing to the sun. For 7 generations, the people there had measured their lives by that field, birthed beneath spring rain, marriage beneath summer dust, burial beneath autumn smoke. But on the 8th day of harvest, the smoke came too early. Iron banners appeared on the northern hill. Beneath them rode Lord Varess, called the Debt King, a warlord who believed every living thing owed him something: grain, coin, sons, daughters, silence. His soldiers burned storehouses first. Then they broke doors. Then they dragged families into the road and asked each household what it could pay to remain whole. Most offered food, some offered silver, a few offered prayers. Tovan Marrow had none of those left. He was a farmer, broad-shouldered but weathered thin, with hands cracked by frost and soil. His wife, Ilia, stood behind him with their 2 children pressed into her skirts. Around Tovan's neck hung a plain blue-white shell on a cord, no finer than something washed up from a riverbank. Varess looked at the empty grain cart beside the farmhouse.
Nothing?
The warlord asked. Tovan lowered his head.
Nothing that is yours.
The first blow came from a mailed fist. Tovan fell into the dust. His children screamed. The soldiers laughed. And then, before Varess could turn away, the farmer rose. The amulet had belonged to Tovan's mother, and to her mother before her. No one in the family knew where it had come from. Some said it was carved from the first shell pulled from the sea after the world learned sorrow. Others said it was a tear shed by a saint who had begged death to wait one more breath. Tovan had never believed such stories. To him it was only a keepsake. His mother had tied it around his neck on the day his father died beneath a collapsed mill beam. Tovan had been 12, too young to inherit debts and too old to be comforted by lies.
When the world comes for you,
his mother had said.
Do not answer too quickly.
What does that mean?
He had asked.
It means fate is impatient. Make it wait.
He had worn the shell ever since, through famine, through frost, through the winter fever that nearly took his son. Through the night Ilia almost died giving birth to their daughter. He had never seen it glow, never felt it warm, never heard a whisper from within it, until Lord Varess struck him the second time. The second blow was harder. A soldier drove the butt of a spear into Tovin's ribs. Something cracked. He hit the ground and felt the world shrink into a small red circle. He could not breathe. He could not move. Above him, Varess sighed.
Some men mistake pain for courage.
The warlord nodded toward Ilia.
Take the children. Burn the house.
Tovan tried to rise, but his body refused him. Then the shell at his throat pulsed. Not with warmth, with memory. He remembered his mother's hands, rough and gentle. He remembered his father laughing in the mill yard. He remembered Ilia standing in spring rain, asking if he intended to stare at her forever or finally speak. The pain did not vanish, but something arrived before the next breath failed. A thread of strength, a mouthful of life stolen from the space between wound and ending. Tovan pushed one hand into the dust, then the other, and stood. The laughter stopped. Varess turned back slowly.
Again,
he said. They beat him because Varess commanded it. They beat him because soldiers fear what their masters fear. They beat him because the village was watching, and terror must never be allowed to hesitate. A sword pummel split Tovan's brow. A boot crushed his knee. A spearhead opened his shoulder. Each time he fell, the world dimmed. Each time the next strike descended, the shell flashed faintly against his chest. And each time, before iron met flesh again, life returned. Not enough to heal him. Not enough to spare him pain. Only enough to deny the finality of the blow. Tovan rose with blood in his beard and dust on his tongue. Varess dismounted. His face no longer held irritation. It held interest, An interest in men like Varess was often crueler than anger.
What are you?
He asked.
A farmer.
Tovan said.
No farmer stands after this.
Tovan swayed. His left eye was swollen shut. One arm hung uselessly.
Then you have not met many farmers.
A few villagers looked away, afraid their hope might be seen. Varess drew his sword. Its edge was blackened from old battles and polished by newer deaths.
Hope is a weed.
The warlord said.
It grows in poor soil, it cracks stone, it returns after fire. But every weed has a root.
He pointed the blade at Tovan's family.
I will cut yours out.
Tovan stepped between them. The shell began to shine. There is a place, no map records. It is not life. It is not death. It is the narrow mercy between the raised weapon and the wound. Most souls pass through it too quickly to notice. A heartbeat, a spark, a door opening only wide enough for the inevitable to enter. But the shell at Tovan's throat knew that place. It had been made there, long ago, before the first kings wrote laws in blood. There lived a healer named Mare of Ven. She had no temple, no army, no throne. She walked battlefields after the fighting ended, and listened for those who had not yet understood they were dying. She saved many, but never enough. So Mara went to the edge of the world, where the sea fell into a starless gulf, and she made a bargain with the silence beneath creation.
Give me one breath.
She said.
Not immortality, not victory, only one breath before the killing blow. Let the wounded choose what to do with it.
The silence answered.
One breath will not save them.
Mira replied.
No, but it may let them stand.
From the gulf, she drew a shell, the color of moonlit bone, and bound into it the smallest mercy ever granted. Not the power to escape fate, but the power to meet it standing. That was the amulet's first name. Not a jewel, not a charm, a refusal. Varess struck Tovan across the chest. The farmer fell. The shell flared. Tovan rose. Varess struck again. Tovan fell. The shell flared. Tovan rose. By the sixth rising, the soldiers had stepped back. By the seventh, the villagers were no longer silent. By the eighth, Varessia's hand trembled. No one had ever forced him to witness the full shape of his own cruelty. Usually, men broke. Usually, families begged. Usually, villagers learned the cost of defiance and carried that lesson like a brand. But this farmer would not become a lesson. He became a question. How many times must a man rise before violence begins to look foolish? How many wounds must he endure before the one holding the blade understands that domination is not the same as strength? On the ninth strike, Varess used both hands. The sword cut deep. Tovan dropped to one knee. The shell burst with pale light, bright as dawn through storm cloud. The air held still. The dust froze. The soldiers' torches bent sideways in a wind no one felt. Tovan saw the place between death and death. There stood Mare of Im, or the memory of her, or the mercy she had left behind.
You may lie down.
She told him. Tovan looked past her and saw Ilya, his son, his daughter, the village, the barley field burning at the edges.
Not yet,
he said. Mara smiled sadly.
That is always what the brave say.
No,
Tovan answered.
it is what the needed say.
Then he stood for the ninth time. Lord Varess lowered his sword. No one spoke. Blood ran from Tovan's sleeves and pattered into the dust. He could barely stand. He did not look victorious. He looked ruined. And that ruined man had defeated the entire army. Not by killing. Not by conquering. By making conquest ashamed of itself. Varess stared at the shell.
What price did you pay for that thing?
He asked. Tovan breathed slowly.
Everything it asked.
And what did it ask?
To get back up.
The answer angered Varess more than an insult would have. He raised his sword again, but this time the blade stopped halfway. His gaze shifted to the children. They were not looking at him, they were looking at their father. And for the first time in many years, Lord Varess understood that fear was a poor inheritance. It died with the tyrant who planted it. But courage, witnessed once, could trouble generations. He sheathed his sword.
Leave them.
He ordered. A captain turned sharply.
My lord.
The family lives. The village keeps 1 cart of grain. Burn nothing else.
The soldiers hesitated, but obedience was easier than understanding. Varess mounted his horse. Before he rode away, he looked down at Tovan one final time.
I spared them,
He said.
because I chose to.
Tovan wiped blood from his mouth.
No,
He said.
you spared them because for one moment you remembered you could.
Varess said nothing. Then the riders left. Tovan lived 3 more days. The village healer did what she could, but some wounds are only delayed, not denied. The shell had never promised freedom from death. It had only lent him enough life to spend himself completely. On the 2nd night, Elia sat beside him and held the amulet in her palm.
It saved us.
She whispered. Coven shook his head.
No, it gave me time. That is not the same thing.
Their daughter, too young to understand dying, climbed onto the bed and placed a barley stalk across his chest like a royal scepter.
Will you get up again?
She asked. Tovan smiled.
I already did.
On the 3rd morning, as sunlight entered the room, he took the shell from his neck and pressed it into Ilia's hand.
Do not bury this with me,
I cannot wear it.
She said.
you may not need to.
And if I do?
Tovan closed her fingers around it.
Then make fate wait.
He died at dawn. Outside, the villagers replanted the burned edges of the field. Years passed. Elmsreach became known as the village that survived the dead king, not because its walls were strong. It had none. Not because its people were warriors. They were farmers, millers, shepherds, and children who learnt early that courage could be quiet until called. The shell passed from hand to hand, but never to the powerful. It was worn by a midwife who crossed a battlefield to save a stranger's child. It was worn by a prisoner who stood between a jailer and a condemned. It was worn by an old soldier who threw away his sword and carried the wounded from a burning fort. Each bearer learned the same truth. The amulet did not make pain meaningless. It made surrender negotiable. In time, bards tried to give it grander names: the Dawn Heart, the Unbroken Vow, the Saint's Delay, the Last Breath Talisman. But the people of Elmsreach knew better. They named it after what it truly was. Not victory, not immortality, not destiny conquered forever. Only a small, impossible mercy, arriving in the instant before the world struck again. They called it the mercy before the blow, and those who wore it were warned. It will not save you from suffering. It will not promise you triumph. It will not turn aside the blade. It will only ask one question when the end comes reaching. Will you rise once more?